Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is talking about the Oaths of Strasbourg. They are generally considered to be the oldest surviving that we know of document that's partly written in French. We know specifically that it was made on the 12th of February 842, and the reason why we have such a specific date for such an old document is because it was quite a big deal. It was between two rulers of two territories, Louis the German and Charles the Bold, B-A-L-D, and that's the only reason, because normally anything that's sort of older than about 1300 we don't have a specific date for, and this is because it's such a big deal, it was such a big alliance, that's why it's historically recorded when it was. So now looking at the text itself, we'll go for the modern transcription. What we mean by modern transcription is basically the version that you would type on a keyboard. This is the Wikisource version. I haven't found out who's actually done it. And normally that matters because there are editorial decisions to make. I mean, if you look at it, it's got commas in it and it's got a semicolon in it. Those don't exist yet. Those aren't used in text yet, or not. Maybe they do exist somewhere. They're not used in Old French and sort of Latin texts as early as 842. They come quite a lot later. What we can say that's interesting looking at this is every word that's in it, it's the first, because it's the oldest text, every word that's in it, it's the first recorded usage of this word. What I think is also quite interesting is people forget that there are two parts in French. They quote the top part and they forget that the bottom part, the second part, there's a little bit that's a bit later that's also in French. Now if we move to the original manuscripts, you can see quite a lot of differences, and when I say differences, the second word, D-O, with a tilde over the top, normally that would be don, that would be a shorthand for D-O-N. The reason we know it's Deo is because the context for the love of God, it couldn't be don, as in gift. The other thing we can do, another trick we can do as linguists, is because this is in Old High German as well, we can scroll down and look at what it says in the Old High German and compare it, and it's goddess, G-O-D-E-S, which is the genitive of Gott, which is God. It's the modern English word God. So if we just pretty quickly go through some of the other interesting features of this document, of this manuscript, we start with line 1. So we've got pro deo amor. The next word is et, so that is a little ampersand, a little and sign. Par, which is P with a horizontal line through the descender. That's really common in Old French. Christian, as you can see, is with an X. It is so that, you know, when you see Xmas cards, that normal writing with an X goes back way more than 1,000 years. Again, obviously, it doesn't go back any older than this in French, because this is the first French document. But Christian, you can see we've got Christian, we've got Christ with an X, and you will find that certainly in other manuscripts that I've seen. Poblo et nostro. That is NRO with a tilde above the R. That's common, not nostro, because that's, I think, the only occurrence of the word nostro is in this manuscript. But nostra, lots of old French manuscripts with nostra, N-R-E, with a tilde above the R, or above the R and the E. And then commun, we've got, that is C-O with a tilde, M-U-N. So that's when the modern transcript, that M gets doubled. If we completely skip the second line, Savir et podia medunat. First of all, if you look at that V, V is actually written identically to a U. So if you look at medunat, look at that U, it's the same thing. And the other thing is, if you look at the modern transcription, you look back at that, they've put a space in medunat. So they put medunat. And that's completely standard things to do, because especially in older manuscripts like this, though if you're sort of talking, 13th century manuscripts, you do get this, still get it a fair bit. It pretty standard for the scribes to miss out spaces or not bother too much whether they've got the space or they haven't got it. And then you'll notice one thing I haven't really mentioned is what it means, and that's completely normal for me. I'm not big into. I'm really interested in seeing like the first uses of a word, and the other thing is to actually look at something that someone's written more than 1,000 years ago and be able to read it. That's really why I do it. So don't be surprised if in any of these videos I don't go into the meanings, because I don't. You can get that on Wikisource. I'll post a link to that because they've got the full transcription and the full translation. But yeah, I think it's quite, the original manuscript is pretty easy to read, and it's fascinating. For being the first of its kind that's in Old French, or generally recognised in Old French. And it's pretty interesting because it's got a bit of Latin in it and a bit of Old High German in, and you can compare the Old French with the Old High German, which says the same thing.